Go home, Michael. Go home.
Hey, everybody, it's Steven from CRAVEN Something Scary. Well, today we have a really special video we're making. I have a special guest right here. I have Night from the Night Watch Zone joining me. Hey, Night.
Hey, how's it going? Glad to be here.
Well, thank you so much for being a part of this official channel launch here. And we're going to have a great time today talking about a great movie. Oh, my goodness. And, you know, there's so much we're going to get into. But before we do, I guess we should tell the folks exactly what movie we're going to be talking about, right? So
that's right.
Let's start there. So we're going to be talking about Halloween 1978, the original Halloween. It stars, of course, Jamie Lee Curtis, Donald Pleasance, and Nick Castle as Michael Myers, or also known as The Shape.
Yep.
And it's directed by the great John Carpenter. And this was his third film to direct after Dark Star in 74 and Assault on Precinct 13 in 76. And that is 1976, kiddos. Just so you know. And going way back, man.
That's right.
Now, just a real fun fact real quick about the movie is at the time, Halloween was the highest grossing independent film of all time, grossing $55 million in the box office. And Night, check this out, a budget of $300,000.
Isn't that crazy?
That is insane.
I mean, that's just what a profit. I mean, for a horror movie, you know?
Yes, I know. Exactly. And John Carpenter has said that unfortunately him and Deborah Hill saw almost none of that money because they were young kids and they signed contracts that weren't really, they should have had lawyers really looking at the stuff better. Yes. And so the studio, their distributor, whoever, or Mustafa Akid or whoever, got made a lot of money in 1978. Let me just put it that way.
He really did. And the interesting thing is that John Carpenter and Mustafa Akkad, they really butted heads for years after this because of that situation.
And I kind of lean towards, I'm on Carpenter's side, man, because all of that happened. Of course, and I know we weren't there, you know, for the discussions, but man, do the right thing. You know, there's just sometimes it's just, this may not be an obligation, but it's the right thing to do, you know? And, and I think that, and John Carpenter said that when they offered him, they told him they want Halloween 2. And so he said, basically him and Deborah did Halloween 2, even though there was no story there. He said he didn't want to do a sequel. It was done, but he said, we did that to recover money that they lost from the first one. So I'm like, I get it, man. And I thought Halloween 2 was not a bad movie. I'm not going to talk about 2 tonight, but I thought that was a pretty good movie.
Yeah, I think so too. And you could kind of see their fingerprints on it, even though Tommy Lee Wallace directed it. But you know, he was a protege basically of Carpenter. So I think it might have been the best situation for the movie that it could have been without Carpenter actually directing it himself.
Yeah, that's a great point. And you know, again, I so much want to talk about the other sequels because
I know
we start up here on the top of the Mount Everest and then we start going on. But anyway, we will save that for another discussion. We're going to celebrate the masterpiece of Halloween 1978. And speaking of which, man, are you ready to dive into this thing?
I'm ready to go, man. I'm psyched. This is one of my favorite horror movies of all time, easily.
Woo. And we're going to make this so fun to talk about. All right, man. Well, if you are ready, then let's go.
It's trailer time.
We've got the red screen instead of the green screen.
Right?
Oh, just the sound.
It's wonderful.
Yes.
A small American town 15 years ago.
Oh, man.
That camera work was just so phenomenal.
It really is. Wow.
Michael?
Man.
Yep.
Halloween,
I spent 8 years trying to.
There he is.
There is the legend.
7, trying to keep him locked up because I realized that what was living behind that boy's eyes was purely and simply evil.
Oh, man.
I think he'll come back.
Exploring uncharted territory.
And totally charted.
Just talk. Sure.
Totally.
Totally PJ Souls.
Halloween.
Oh, man.
I love that. I love it.
So awesome. Oh, they're showing a bit too much in this trailer, Night.
Right?
I mean, really? No, come on now.
Yeah. Oh, I love that shot so much. Telling you, man.
It's just masterful, man.
It really, really is. It truly, truly is.
Gosh.
And the score just heightens up everything. It's just,
it does.
Everything works so well together.
Yes. Man.
I was really scared for Jamie Lee Curtis.
Me too.
I
was too, man. Oh, you're just like the tension's just frenzy right now.
Halloween.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
The night he came home.
Dude.
Bravo, man. Bravo.
Wow. Yes. Oh my gosh.
It's awesome.
Wow. Okay. So here, how about this? Before we talk about specific scenes, because I know we've got a bunch of scenes we're going to talk about tonight.
Right.
But before we get too specific, how about we just kind of tackle the movie from an overall perspective, have an umbrella about the movie itself. And as my guest tonight, you have the floor. So why don't you start us off?
Oh gosh, where to start? I mean,
I know.
I think that the thing that I appreciate about this movie so much is it's done in a very intelligent way.
Mm-hmm.
You have all of these elements that Carpenter was working with, and he's such a smart director because, you know, he handled the directing and setting up shots and things like that. And he had Deborah Hill, who was fantastic. You know, rest in peace to her. But she worked a lot on developing the characters of the girls, you know, and a lot of their interplay, so they could become more realistic and also likable. And I know you just said it a few minutes ago, not to jump ahead into the series, but I think that this was something that made this movie stand above all the other sequels.
Yeah. Yep. Agreed.
At least for me, you know.
Oh, easily. I'm with you 100%.
And yeah, I mean, as you know, on my channel, we've been going through the series. And the thing that I've found is as you go further and further into it, we get kind of further away from the things that made the original so good. Like I said, just very intelligent. When the movie opens and you just have that point of view shot and things like that, you're already behind the 8 ball. You know, you're already wondering, wow, what's going on? You know, it's a bad situation, right?
Yes.
But you don't understand fully what's going on. And then it's like, as the movie goes, the layers are being pulled back bit by bit. And I think it's just, I mean, even watching it today, and I've seen this movie, I don't even know how many times, but it still gets me into that atmosphere. And I think that's why it's a masterpiece. It really, really is.
I agree with you 100%. I feel exactly the same way. Doesn't matter how many times I've seen it. I know what's going to happen. I know by heart every scene that's coming up, but it doesn't matter. It just gets me every time. I still feel the intensity. I still want to yell at the TV. I still, you know, it's like go, don't go, you know, whatever the case is. Sometimes you say go, then you say don't. But it is just, I mean, that is the mark of a masterpiece, is when you can watch something that's 40, 50 years old, whatever, it doesn't matter. And it still connects to you, man. That's pretty impressive. And it's hard to do. That's very hard to do. And, you know, and not to bring my my blanket, I guess, my safety blanket into this discussion. But Scream, I don't know what I was trying to think of a funny way to say it. That's all I came up with. But Scream does the same thing. If you watch Scream #96, for me, it's as timeless as Halloween is for its decade. It connects today like it did. I think these two movies are again, I think they're both masterpieces and they're different kind of movies. But anyway, back to Halloween. One thing I've got a few things I'm going to mention here kind of overall, but number one is the music. John Carpenter's score just is so unnerving and unsettling. And man, when I first saw this, when I was young, the music alone, I didn't even look at the television. I heard the music and it freaked me out. And I'm like, that's powerful when you can look, just hearing it gets you unsettled. And like, this is off. Something's a little off here. This isn't right. And, it's just what I would consider the perfect score. I think it's, and it's subtle. It's not over the top. Which this whole movie, we're going to talk about that, how subtle and simple it is, which makes it amazing. And the score fits it. And there's one scene when the opening sequence, when Michael gets the knife in the kitchen, you see him looking down, he gets the butcher knife and he goes in the living room and the boyfriend runs down the stairwell. Remember, he leaves the house and he's hiding in the living room. When the boyfriend shuts the front door, there's a single note that hits on the score. It's one single note that is held, and it never stops for 1 minute and 27 seconds. It's a single note while I timed it, while he walks up the stairs to his sister's bedroom. The whole time, it's a single note, man. And that one single note was driving tension in me. Just seeing what was happening and then hearing that. To me, that's pretty amazing, with one note that can get you, can communicate the message, can communicate the motive and the means, the feeling of the moment.
I totally agree. Absolutely.
That was, man. So I have to give props to the music when we're talking about overall. And there's a couple of other things, and then we can move on. But looking at Michael Myers, the intelligence of Michael Myers is interesting, and it's something I want to talk to you about, because this is, to me, this is not an insane individual. He's actually very highly intelligent. For example, he's locked up in a psychiatric facility, right, since he's 5. But he knows how to drive a car. He knows. Think about this. 5 years old, you don't really know how to drive a car and put it in a park and drive. And I mean, you don't.
Right.
And so anyway, and he knows how to get to Haddonfield from the facility. He was 5 and he's 23 now, I think, right? Something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
21, 22. He knows where to go to find Lori so he can follow her. He knows all this stuff. So overall, to me, he shows a lot of intelligence on considering how things started. And it makes you start to think about, number one, how is it possible that he was capable of doing those things and knowing those things? And is there something supernatural at work going on within him that's helping him do these things? I'm just kind of throwing that out there at the beginning here.
Yeah.
And we'll talk. You think? Yeah. I want to get your thoughts on that. It makes you think, because as the movie progresses, there's kind of clues along the way that make you think, wait a second, there's no way he could do this in his own ability.
Yeah. And also, just to follow up with that, I think that was the beauty of the character in the original movie, because you didn't know, and Carpenter wanted it to be like that. He wanted Michael to be, that mythological, presentation of evil, a force of nature.
That's right.
And you see it so often, because he's, like you said, he's driving a car. He knows how to get to Haddonfield. So he has a lot of intelligence. And when you realize that, and you say, well, yeah, how is he able to to do all these things, what's going on in his mind, in other words. So
Right.
he's a very interesting character that way. And I think that, and again, I know I keep saying this, I don't want to jump into the other movies, but
No,
I
that's
think
okay.
I think that's something that got lost a little bit, and sometimes a lot,
Yes.
during the other sequels, and I think that when you watch this movie, the way he is personified is just, it's perfect, because you really, you don't know some of the things that he's doing. It just is like, wow, even at the end, when Loomis, not to jump ahead, but when Loomis shoots him and then he's just gone, just like that.
Yeah.
It's just like, wow. And it's just fantastic. It really is.
It really is. And I think, I know, we're jumping a little ahead, and that's okay. It's our video, right? So it doesn't matter. If people don't like it, stay anyway. But but no, you're absolutely right. And to me, the biggest clue, the final clue that there is something going on that is supernatural in origin or within him, was that last scene, because he took 6 shots. He emptied his gun on him, 6 shots, fell off a 2-story balcony onto his back.
Yeah.
Most of us, our backs would be broken. And I mean, we forget about running. We're not even moving. Right. And he's gone. He's on his feet. So to me, I thought that was the confirmation that, he's human. He bleeds, he hurts, but he's more than human.
Right.
And there's something else that's empowering him, which, as we know, the sequels went on to try to explain with the Thorn cult. We know how they tried to show that that's where the power came from. And I mean, I get why they want to go that way, because the question we're talking about it, Derek, is like, what was it that gave him that power? We don't know. And John Carpenter, to your point, did not want that to be. He wanted to be ambiguous about it. We don't know. It's a mystery, and he wanted to leave it there. That was it. That was supposed to be the end. But anyway, another thing too, to go with his intelligence, I thought, was his discipline. He's very controlled. And some movies you see, slasher films, the killer's out of control. He just does, anybody gets killed if they're in his way or whatever. It doesn't matter. But Michael, he never seems unhinged. He seems very in control of himself. And he possesses like this laser focus, right? And he doesn't randomly kill people like a spree killer. He's really controlled, and to the point where he would watch his victims many times and not even kill them. He kills them later. It's on his time. And, he could have killed him a lot sooner, but he didn't. It's like, it was almost, he was just soaking it all in. So I just thought his discipline and control, I love that about him. And I think that differentiates him from a lot of other characters, serial killers.
Yeah. I mean, and again, I think that's what made him seem otherworldly. He walks. When he's coming after you, he's walking. He's not concerned about running.
No,
it's almost like he's in his own little world, and he's basically like, I'm gonna get you sooner or later, and if I don't, I'll get you next time. And like you said, very calculated. He doesn't get excited. He just kills. Like with the Bob kill. I mean, he's got him up on the wall, and he just stabs him, and then looks at him, and then that's it. The only other character I can think of offhand, I'm sure there might be others, but I remember that scene in Silence of the Lambs where Dr. Chilton was talking about Lecter when he attacked the nurse, and he talked about how his heartbeat didn't go above normal. In other words, he just killed someone viciously. And it was just like a Wednesday afternoon. It didn't matter, So so Michael is in that same league, obviously, but it was before Silence of the Lambs, and it's scary. That's what makes it so scary to me.
Yeah, I know it does me too. And it's like you say, he's never in a hurry. He's resolved. He knows it's going to happen. It's like it's inevitable. You're going to die if I want you to. And if it takes, I'm not worried about getting to it quickly. I can go slow. It's fine. And that's something really creepy about that the way he just walks and the way is methodical. And, because there's so many of these movies where people are chased by the killers chasing them, right? They're running. And that's a different kind of fear, to be like chased, like if somebody's running, but it's something else to be looking over there and the guys across the street. and he's just casually taking his time because he knows he's going to get what he's going to do. It's pretty powerful, man. That's awesome.
Yeah.
One last thing about Michael, and then I'll just a couple other things I'll hit, and let's get into scenes. Is that his name, like the name of Michael Myers? So he's credited in the credits as the Shape.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's so interesting, the Shape. And so John Carpenter revealed that the reason that he was called the Shape is that he actually nicknamed him in the script. It's always the Shape. So John Carpenter put in for the Michael Myers character. And he said when he was watching the film back and how Michael's presented in each of his scenes, and we saw it in the trailer, how he just kind of comes out of nowhere from that closet into the light, which is so great. He said it looks like he's just a shape hiding in the shadows. And so that's how the Shape came to be the name. And there's a second thing that's interesting to note. And I'll see, you may or may not be familiar with this, but the term the Shape was used in Salem witch trials and then in the 1690s to describe specters or spirits accused of doing harm.
Oh,
and I'm like, that fits Michael Myers. It could be
absolutely
the spirit thing, the evil. So it's interesting that those things go together.
Absolutely. I mean, his mythology is, I mean, it's fantastic. I mean, the whole idea of being called the Shape, the boogeyman, the way that he moves with an ease. He walks. He doesn't get excited. He shows no emotion whatsoever. The mask worked. I mean, shout out to William Shatner.
Yes, William Shatner.
And I love William Shatner. I'm a huge Trekkie at heart. But the mask was fantastic. And originally, they weren't going to use that. Originally, they were trying to come up with something that was actually scary, or I think kind of like a clown type of thing, or whatever.
I think it was like, I believe a clown type mask. Yes.
And just, I mean, and obviously we both love horror. There's a lot of great horror movies. There's a lot of great horror icons, horror villains. But Michael's mythology is so, to me anyways, just so cool. And so scary, just everything. You've got Loomis that is telling the story, giving you the background. You've got Tommy Jarvis talking about, the boogeyman, is he real? And obviously Laurie and Annie and those guys deal with it. And it makes Michael more than human, which we already see that he seems to be. It
Absolutely.
all works.
It does. It does all work. And it really does make him unique in the slasher genre, I believe. It really makes him, and you and I both are, we could talk about the sequels, of course, another time, but you're right. The original is what we're talking about. The original Michael Myers, 78. And to your point, the mask, I was about to talk about, the mask is perfect. It's the best of the franchise. It is all the years that have passed and development, no one has touched that original mask, in my opinion. It's just, I
agree.
Every sequel has fallen short. And one day, Night, maybe you and I'll do a video on just the mask, the progression of the face. That would be an interesting video.
Absolutely.
But
and also to say too, that's the thing that, and I know you've joined in some of our episodes on it, but that's the thing that has always gotten, me is as we went on through the franchise, they just couldn't get that mask right. And I'm thinking, what is going on? It's like, I mean, obviously most of the directors, in the sequels, or at least the people involved, knew of the original or liked the original or respected the original or what have you. And it's like, you gotta get that mask right. I will say that the 2018 Halloween, I think they did a heck of a job, and I got to give them a lot of credit, because that's about as close as it's gotten.
It is.
And you could tell they really did their homework. And I just kept thinking to myself, what about all these other sequels? I mean, when you think about some of the bad versions of the mask, it's just laughable. But anyways,
it is. No, I know. Really, some of it's so bad. And I'm like, can you not just put a DVD in and pause the movie? I mean, how hard is that? Like, there's the mask. Let's do that again. That worked.
Oh my God.
But you know what is? Everyone wants to try to be better than the original. They want to outdo it.
Right.
I can make it better. And sometimes Carpenter's model of simplicity is just the best way. Just follow the simple mask from the beginning. You know, if you got to pay William Shatner to mold his face in, I don't care what you got to do, but that's the mask. Of course, you probably would be a little different now, but it probably wouldn't be right. But you know, come on, man, we got so many people in the effects industry.
Yeah,
they can make that mask if they really wanted to. So, but I agree about 2018 and Halloween Kills, dude. The trailer for Halloween Kills, man, the last one they put out, that mask when he's up there on the porch, it's the perfect. That mask is legit. I have to give you credit. They did a heck of a job. And David Gordon Green, I read an article where he was talking about it was so difficult in this movie to direct it because he realized that he had to make the mask look right in the shots where he was on screen. And I'm like, that's what I'm talking about. Exactly.
You gotta make the mask look right. You gotta respect it because that is part of the mythology, mask. Yes. So, credit to David Gordon Green for taking the time and showing the utmost detail and respect to it.
Absolutely. I'm so happy he's the one behind the helm. And I think that finally they've gotten the ship turned back in the right direction. So
I agree.
And speaking of the right direction, last thing I want to mention before we get to the scenes is the filmmaking style of John Carpenter. I mean, it just kind of his, we're going to get into specifics, but I will just say that his style of making that first movie was incredible. And now we've kind of hit it on already, but when asked about, the movie, Carpenter said his primary influence was Alfred Hitchcock in the style of making it. And he said that he said really the style of Halloween when he was making the movie was driven by simplicity. He said, because if it's not simple, it won't work. And man, they just proved the point that you can do a less is more approach in this genre, and it works. And Carpenter wanted, like you said earlier, he wanted a slow burn. He wanted it to put the audience to the furthest, pushing it to the furthest limits out, because you never know when he's going to kill, and what's coming, but he wanted you to have to wait and wait and wait. And and so it really worked, didn't it? It really did.
It did. I mean, and the other thing he did too is he lulled you into the horror. You know what I mean? Like you're hanging out with these characters, and especially Laurie Strode, played by Jamie Lee Curtis, and you like her. You know what I'm saying? You like her. She's just a regular person. She's got these two girlfriends, and obviously they've got their character things going on too. But you like them. You're following them. It's Halloween time. The leaves are blowing around, which they brought those leaves in. Leaves were not. Leaves are not on the ground.
They were not. You're right. Good call.
Yeah. But the atmosphere is just so nice, and the kids are walking down the street. She's a babysitter, and she's just going through her day. And that really gets you comfortable. And then when things start to happen, you're more invested in her. You're more invested in what's going on. And I think that was, again, another smart decision by John Carpenter, because you don't expect these horrible things to happen in this town, this little town, this quaint town, on this street where everybody's, pretty much side by side, and you just don't expect it. And even at the end, when Loomis finally finds out where Michael is, it was all by luck. He would have never known where Michael was until Lindsay and Tommy came out screaming and yelling.
Yes, that's right.
I mean, he literally was looking at a row of houses. He would have never known that Michael was in one of them until they came out. So it's like, it gets you afraid, because you're like, wow, that could happen next door to me.
That's right.
And I think that was what was really smart about this movie.
One
of the things that was smart.
Yes, because you're supposed to be safe in that kind of neighborhood. Quote.
Yes.
You're supposed to feel comfortable at night when you go to bed. Not thinking about crime and things happening. And man, so it really does hit you right. It hits you right at home. And
absolutely,
man. And so last thing I said, I know I said that was the last thing, but this is the last thing before we get to scenes. All right. I just have to say briefly, we'll just touch on it. The brilliance of Donald Pleasance. I just think we have to say that before we get into scenes. The the most memorable, well, not maybe the most memorable line. There's two, but one of them is, I know you're going to know it. He tells the sheriff, "Death has come to your little town, sheriff." I'm like, oh
Yes.
man. And
Yes.
but it was the way he said it. It was his delivery and his acting, and he brought so much to that character of Dr. Loomis. It was top shelf acting, and I cannot stress in my opinion, how much he brought to the film. You know, we're talking a lot about Michael because I mean, as we should, but let's not forget how brilliant Donald Pleasance was and what he was like. It was nice when you go from these intense scenes to now you have Donald Pleasance, and there's something about him that makes you feel at ease. I don't know, for me anyway. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
When I was a kid watching this movie, I liked him so much as a character.
Yes.
And through the movie, every time he was on screen, I was invested. And at the end, when he comes to basically, save Laurie, I was just like, yes, help her. And it's because of Donald Pleasance. It's because of his charisma, his acting chops. He just has this gravitas to him. And I've said it myself on my channel that he is one of the best parts about the franchise that other franchises, and if we talk about the 80s, and to me anyways, I call it the Trinity, Freddie, Michael, and Jason. I think Loomis's character is what really gave those movies just that little bit of extra as far as character and so forth. That was an advantage over Nightmare on Elm Street or Friday the 13th. And it's a credit to Donald Pleasance. He was just so amazing. He really was.
He was. And let's be honest, some of those later sequels, if he's the only thing that salvaged some of those movies to make them watchable.
Yes.
It really, I mean, he would come in and kind of save the day like Superman. I'm like, oh God, thank you, Donald. Thank you, Dr. Loomis.
Yes, I mean, it's true.
Remember if that girl dies tonight, and it's like, oh my God. And he was talking to the police officers like that's like 4 or 5, one of those two. I mean, just he saved it. He really saved some of those sequels.
I mean, he had that one scene in 5 where and 5 was rough, man. There were some rough things in 5. And he had that scene when he was out in the farm area and the police went away and he's talking to Michael because he knows Michael is somewhere in the woods.
In the woods.
And of course he is. And and he's just telling him go home, Michael, go home. She'll be there, and
she'll be there waiting for you.
And it's just perfect. It's like, thank you. We're back, and he really did save the day on a lot of those sequels.
He did. And that's a very memorable scene from that movie. I remember when he says, and I'm not going to copy how well you just copied his voice. That was a very good impression. But he's like, you think if you kill them all, it will go away?
Yes.
It won't. And he gets his whole tone changes. It's just like, wow. Anyway, powerful stuff from Donald Pleasance. And so that was a great decision. All right, Knight, I think it's time.
Okay.
It is time for us to dive into some scenes now. Let's dig into specifics now. We can pull back the curtain, let it rip. And I want to let you start us off. What were maybe 2 or 3 of your favorite scenes in the movie?
Well, I think that, I'm going to jump ahead because we had mentioned it a little bit, but the scene with Linda, when her and Bob are fooling around at the house.
Yes.
And I think that the setup for it was just so good because Linda, out of the 3 ladies, she's obviously the most, party girl style person.
For sure.
So yeah, totally. And,
totally.
So you're already kind of in that mind frame as far as just kind of happy-go-lucky, just do what you want to do.
Yeah.
And she has no clue. Bob has no clue.
No.
And just like we saw in the trailer, which I agree with you, they did give a lot away in that friggin' trailer. But when she asked him to go and get me a beer and make me a sandwich and all that type of stuff, the way that Michael and Carpenter is smart too, because some people would say, well, that was a jump scare or whatever. But the thing of it is that's an earned scare to me.
It is.
the atmosphere was set up, the scene beforehand set it up. You have, you think that Michael is going to be in one place and he's not, and then he's in the other place. And of course it plays into the idea of him being the shape.
Right.
He stabs him. There's no emotion. He does that little, Nick Castle does a little head tilt. And it's like, all right. And it just makes him seem so otherworldly. It's crazy. And then of course, such an iconic scene with the sheet.
I love it.
And
the glasses though, man. That's what did it. The glasses what did it.
Yes. It's like, Michael, you are all right. You got a great sense of humor, brother.
Exactly.
You really do.
He showed he has some kind of humor, sense of humor in there somewhere.
Yes. And the door, and again, he, it could have been a thing, and I don't want to talk about Rob Zombie, but that scene was done a lot differently, in that one. But instead of him opening the door and showing that, the door just kind of and he's just standing there. Like there's no dialogue, there's no cursing, there's nothing bombastic. It's just him. And the way that it's shot again, and also credit to Dean Cundy. I absolutely adore Dean Cundy, such a great cinematographer. Just the way that Michael is shot in that moment. And of course Linda thinks it's Bob, and it's not. And then obviously we know what happens, but the music is there too. And it's just a fantastic scene. When I first saw that as a kid, it freaked me out because growing up, for whatever reason, and of course that was so long ago being a kid, but that idea of a ghost, or that white sheet ghost, that was really a thing back then. Seeing someone with a white sheet over them, it used to scare kids. It scared me. So here we are with the king, so to speak, dressed up like that, and it was just a great scene. I just love it.
It was awesome. I actually, if I have, and I'm not doing a ranking on this of scenes, but if I had to, that may be my number one scene of the entire film. That whole sequence you just talked about. And do you remember before? Actually, I think while they're in the midst of doing their deed in the bed, he walks in the room.
Yes.
You remember he walks in the room, you see the shadow of him on the wall, and he's watching them, which they're oblivious, but he's watching them, and he doesn't kill them then. He goes back downstairs into the kitchen. I mean, it goes back to what we're talking about. It's like it's on his schedule. It's when he wants to do it. And I have to talk about, man, the Bob killing. I'm not going to repeat what you said because you said it perfectly. I will just add one thing. This is another scene to me that demonstrates supernatural ability. And the reason I say that is this is a butcher knife. First of all, he lifts. Now you could do this without supernatural help if you're really strong. He lifts the guy up. He lifts Bob up. Bob's head's about to hit the ceiling.
Yes.
Now, a man could do that, but I don't think a man could take a butcher knife, drive it, not to be graphic, guys, but hey, it's a horror movie. Drive it through his chest or stomach area, through the back wall or door, so strong that it supports his weight. To me, that's supernatural strength. I think that's a clue that, dude, this is not a normal man. I'm a normal man. I hope I never find out, but I don't think a normal man can do that. Because that's pretty impressive to me. So I thought, oh, there's something, and like I said, the whole head turning thing is almost like admiring a trophy or admiring. It's like, whatever it is, I love it. Whatever it is, I love it. And I think it was just fantastic.
I agree. It's so subtle and it just works. And like I said, it hits home better than just all this, hoopla going on, and there's no grunting like we saw later on. And it's like, God,
I know
it's good. It's good.
I tell you, it's people try to think they can make it better and don't. Some things you just need to. Not saying you can't ever make a sequel, but man, anyway, I'm about to rabbit trail on a whole nother conversation. But I'm just saying, respect where you came from. Understand why you have a franchise to begin with. It starts with this movie. So, but anyway, I think David Gordon Green is saving the day finally. But now a couple of other scenes I want to mention real quick. Then I'm going to get some more of your scenes. is after Lori discovers the bodies in the house and Michael comes after her and she gets out through the kitchen door when she's like, oh, you're relieved. And she's running. Now she's running back to her house, screaming, remember, for help. And she runs to the neighbor's house. And all the whole time, Michael is slowly coming out the back of the house and coming. And she screams at her neighbor. And the darn neighbor turns the light on and then shuts the light off. And like, are you kidding me? I guess I thought it was a prank. But and this is harking back to what we talked about earlier, but I love this scene. I should have timed it out, but it's a long time when Michael would walk across the street. And we saw it in the trailer, remember? Yes. And John Carpenter specifically said on that scene that he wanted it to be the slowest walk in Hollywood. He wanted that scene to drag purposely as long as they could, knowing the audience is going crazy, knowing what's about to happen. So I thought he accomplished his goal. I thought he did that. For me anyway, he nailed it. That was one of the most high tension scenes of the whole film. And of course, she just gets in there, and then we got the whole couch in the living room with the knitting needle. I mean, and the whole thing goes from there, finale other than there. But that scene in particular is one of my all-time favorites.
I agree. I absolutely agree.
Now I'll give you one more night, then I want to let you give us some more of your scenes. And I hope I'm not stealing them. So I'm going first. That's okay. But no, that's not true. I'm just joking. But the final sequence of the whole final sequence there, after he comes in the house, when that scene after she stabs him, when the gut in the closet, she does the coat hanger, and then she drops his knife, and she stabs him, and he falls down, right? So she walks over the body and goes over to the doorway. And she's standing there leaning up against the door. And this is such brilliant camera work. And they filmed the whole movie in what is it? Help me out, Night. Anamorphic. I said it right. Anamorphic lenses in camera. So it was that wide screen.
Yes.
And you see behind her, Michael slowly just like this sit up. Oh, to this day, I'm like, oh my gosh. Like you just
and he turned to her too.
Yes.
He sits up and and it was so perfect. It was perfect. Oh gosh.
Man, I tell you, I mean, I almost get chill bumps, bro. And that's for real, because that is just perfect. It's brilliant. It's just perfect. And then he's coming up behind her, and then we know the whole ending. But what really gets me is when he sits up and turns, man, that just oh my gosh. And then finally for me, I'm gonna give you the floor the rest of the way for scenes. To me, the most iconic line in the movie, I know I talked about the one earlier about deaths come to your town, but the one for me that's going to stick out higher than that is after he shoots him and he falls off the balcony, and Lori says, "Was that the boogeyman?" And Dr. Loomis says, as a matter of fact, say with me, Knight, it was.
Yes.
Oh, and the way he says it too, it's like,
yes,
as a matter of the fact, and he pauses. It was. Oh my gosh. Chill bumps again now, folks. Horror bumps.
Absolutely.
I don't care. Call me a wimp. I don't care. I got horror bumps. When you have scenes like that just are brilliantly done, and it's art. This is art we're watching, and it just connects to you.
Yeah.
So, Knight, those are my scenes. Now tell me some more. You got any more favorite scenes that we haven't talked about?
Man, there's so many. I mean, I also loved even the introduction to Loomis. When he's driving with Nurse Marion,
yes,
and they're talking about Michael. And the thing that was really interesting also about Loomis, that kind of got me, was there was some mystery to him as well. You know what I'm saying? Because obviously, he, through the movie, as we went further into the movie, he talked about how, he worked with Michael, and how as the years went on, Michael became less and less human and so forth. But it was the way that Donald Pleasance presented Loomis. He just always I always felt like I was two steps behind him as far as what's going on with him. He was a very mysterious character, a very interesting character. And in that scene, when they're talking about, they want him on Thorazine and stuff like that.
Right.
And let me just tell you, man, in my regular job, I deal with medicine, and that is some deep stuff. I mean, like,
is it right?
You literally wanted this guy to be a zombie. but Nurse Marion in that conversation,
Mm-hmm.
she, even though she seems like, she's a, an experienced nurse, she's seen it all type of thing, she
Yeah.
still seems like she can't believe how cold Loomis seems to be about Michael,
Yes,
you
that's
know,
right.
you
Exactly.
know,
Yeah, she's almost
and,
questioning his humanity towards him.
yes,
Yes.
absolutely. And she's like, you don't want him to ever get out, do you? Like, no, no,
Mm-hmm.
never, never.
Never.
And it's just, again, and of course, I'm not doing it any justice by speaking about it, but the camera work, is kind of, here, and the
Mm-hmm.
way Donald is playing it, he just seems like, he's all about business.
Yes,
He
very
want
much.
he wants this guy to never see the outside because he
Nope.
understands what he is. We don't understand it yet because,
Mm-mm.
again,
Nope.
it's still early in the movie. And again, I think that's what was so good about this movie as well.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, that happens with the original, in franchises, because you don't know anything. But again, the way that Carpenter was slowly peeling back these moments to
Yeah.
reveal the depth of what Michael is, and I think it was just fantastic. And it's a credit to Donald Pleasance. It's also a credit to the way that they characterize Nurse Marion, because he had to bounce off of someone, as far as this character moment. And she
True.
was great. She was great in it.
That's right. And she almost
Yeah.
would take the role that you and I would take as without knowing anything about someone. Like, oh
Yes.
man, really? Is like, is there anything else we can do for this? You're having that kind of that angle, which so it's kind of relatable. I think we're to her. And then, I remember the scene later. I forgot who he's talking to. Maybe it was the sheriff when he said, "I spent 7 years trying to reach him."
Yes.
And now
yes.
And I spent 5 years trying to keep him locked in because I realized what was there was pure evil, basically.
Yes.
And I'm maybe butchering the line, but it's close to that. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
And
oh yeah.
I'm like, oh wow, because he's got a lot of history. That's a lot of time. I mean, we're talking about what, 12 years or whatever it is, and that's so we don't see any of that history in the movie. Like you say, it's mysterious. But Loomis is an interesting character, and you have to know that his backstory must have been something. Like,
yes,
I almost wish there was like a prequel of if back when he was alive, like a prequel of Loomis, like show us what led him to Michael and how that happened and what I don't know. But anyway, just a thought. If you could go back in time,
if only.
If only. I know, for a lot of things.
True.
Man, do you got any more scenes you like to talk about, or you want to kind of move on to the next section?
The only other thing I wanted to also give credit to, and we talked about Michael. Obviously, he's the centerpiece of this. We talked about Loomis, who I think, it was kind of like, he's Van Helsing and Michael is Dracula. But I think the other thing about this too, at least for the characters on screen, Jamie Lee Curtis was just,
man,
when you talk about Final Girls, when you talk about first, first big acting role and that type of stuff. I just think that she was just so good in this movie. And, like I said, and sometimes, especially for what we do as far as talking about movies, reviewing movies, and even critiquing them, sometimes I take a step back from it and I sometimes wonder to myself, do I feel that way because this is something that I've spent so much time with, or is it factual? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I gotta admit, man, and I've seen this movie so many times, I've seen so many horror movies, and I just think the way that Jamie Lee was in this movie, it was a home run. It was a home run. Everything that she did, her joy, her pain, her fear, her anxiousness. She was
self-consciousness too, even being self-conscious about not having a date, and all of
that's
that.
exactly what I thought. That's so funny you said that, because as soon as you said self-conscious, that's exactly what I thought about, the whole Ben Tramer thing.
Yes, that's right.
And Jamie Lee is what made it work and made it believable, because obviously we've seen movies where actors or actresses, either because of maybe their lack of ability or maybe the script isn't great or what have you, we've seen characters that just don't connect.
Absolutely, man.
They just don't work. But Jamie Lee Curtis playing Laurie Strode, it just seemed like everything was in alignment. You know what I mean?
Well, I do.
the script was right.
Yep.
What Deborah Hill did for the dialogue was right. Carpenter's direction was right. Dean Cundy's cinematography was right. The music was right. It just
everything.
But Jamie Lee is a big part of it. So I just wanted to give her some credit, big credit.
I'm glad you brought that up because we haven't really talked much about her at all to this point. And she was so believable. It was so natural. It was almost like you were just really watching a real, like she wasn't a character. Like this was really a real person you could know in your own life, and that's, I mean, considering how young she was, and I mean, the budget was so low. I remember she said she was buying her own wardrobe at JCPenney. So she literally bought her own clothes that we see in the movie. And not that had nothing to do with acting, but I'd be interested to throw that in there. But she was so natural. She was just a natural. And it's like when you find a natural, you get a home. It's like when you draft the Tom Brady, you hit a home run, buddy.
That's right.
You got a natural, and so Jamie Lee is a natural. I agree with you 100%. So I'm glad you brought that up, man.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's kind of move forward now and talk about our favorite kill or what death impacted you the most. So I'll let you go first, Knight.
And it's funny because even when I first saw this movie as a kid, I think I might have been, I don't know, 8 or something like that.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, and like I just said, I love Jamie Lee Curtis, no doubt about that. One of my favorite final girls ever.
Yep.
But I really I don't know why, but I really was intrigued by Annie. And
Mm-hmm.
I really, I don't know, I don't know what it was, but I just dug her character,
Mm-hmm.
and she made me laugh. She just had a kind of just that perky type of a little bit sarcastic type of style to her.
Yeah.
And when she's babysitting Lindsay and basically trying to throw Lindsay over to Laurie and Tommy and get on with her business.
Exactly.
Carpenter plays it really smart because when she spills the popcorn or the butter or whatever on her shirt, and you see Michael in the window, and of course the dog death, and then of course, and I'm not doing it any justice. I almost feel horrible just speaking it instead of showing it. But she looks, and then he's not there, so she never sees him.
Nope.
But we as the viewer, we're just like, geez, man, this he's either so quick, he's like a ninja, or like you say, there's something that's like otherworldly, supernatural about this dude.
That's right.
And when she gets locked in the laundry room and Michael is out there, and you're just waiting for it to happen.
Exactly.
And I'm just like, no, not Annie. And the way that it finally does, she's singing that song,
I know, so happy.
My Paul, and no keys, but please. And I'm just like, and you're kind of feeling good. And she goes back to the car and it opens up.
Yes, it's out of habit. She pulls the handle.
That's right. And even as a viewer, when I first saw it, I was just like, I'm just still whistling with her. And then and she does this wonderful moment where she stops and she kind of goes, huh? Because she realizes that door is unlocked now.
That's right.
And then she kind of, she tries to wipe away the condensation on the window, and then bam, the shape is right there, and he's choking her. Yeah. And I'm thinking, fight it, get away. And just when you thought that either she would get away from it or whatever, he uses the knife and cuts her. And I was just like, whoa.
That's it, man.
So it was like multiple things going on in one death. How smart is that?
Yeah.
I love that one.
Incredible, man. That's one of my top 2. I had 2 favorite deaths or kills, and that was one of my 2. Just incredible. And man, you said it perfectly, so I won't be redundant, but all of those things were just so powerful. And like you say, I wonder how many people, I would say, I mean, I don't know. I would guess half the people in the audience or whoever watches it for the first time doesn't when she opens the door, they don't even click. It doesn't click.
Yes.
I bet half the people it doesn't click with that. Wait a minute, and then it does. Like you say, like all of a sudden, like for her, all of a sudden it hits you as a viewer. Yeah. Like, wait, she went in to get the keys. Oh, crud. And then right when then it's just bam, man. Oh, and I did like Annie. I did like her.
Yeah, I did too, man. And like I said, I was so bummed out, man. It's like, oh man, because I just really and again, credit to Deborah Hill, for giving her that type of character.
That's right.
Credit to Nancy, for her acting. Credit for all of it. It's just like, wow, everything just came together. And like I said, it was a fantastic scene, a fantastic death scene, but I really felt so bad for Annie. I was just like, oh man, that sucks.
Well, and it is quite a credit to Carpenter's and Deborah Hill, the fact that we even care enough about these characters that we're talking about them now. That's pretty good, because like you say, in some of even the later sequels in the franchise, there are people that you just, if they die, you're like, oh well, whatever. There's no connection. And even Annie and in her role, we connect with her, and that really, and Lindsay to some point, she's a little ditzy, totally, I mean, there's things about her you like, and she was a great actor too, great actress. But anyway, I'm with you 100%. Just brilliantly written and performed. And I would have to say my number one kill. We've talked about it, I think, twice now, so I won't. There's not much left to say, but for me, number one is Bob. It's got to be Bob in the door, and for all the reasons we've already talked about, I won't say them all again. You guys have already heard it. I think for me, that's my most favorite for just because I saw it pretty young too when I watched it the first time, and in the 80s when I saw it, and early 80s, and I will tell you, when I saw it, even to this day, that scene is that kill is the one that I remember more than any of them. Even now, it just was so memorable for all those things we discussed. So I won't bore everyone with repeating them what we've said. We've talked a lot about that scene, and it was worth it, because that was a great scene. So
well, and the thing about these scenes that we've been talking about, I think what makes them so wonderful is that there's so many great elements in them. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not, and again, I love other horror movies. I love other franchises. I love the Friday the 13th franchise. I truly do. Overall, it might be my favorite. It is one of my favorite franchises.
Okay. All right.
But the kills in those movies, it is more of the shock value. Like, bam, you're dead. Bam, you're dead. This movie, like you said, it's artistic. There's this elegance to it. There's so much setup. There's little moments, sometimes little humorous moments. Like, Annie is sitting there singing her heart out, whistling, and then when she gets in the car and she does that little head tilt. Yeah, it's kind of a little humorous. And then boom, the terror. So I think that's what makes these scenes so great, is that it's not just a kill. There's like these things that are really elevating it. So
there are. And I have to say one thing while I'm thinking about it, I probably won't remember it again, is this movie proves that gore is not necessary to be a scary. And there is so little on screen gore. The blood is very little, guys. I mean, very little. And I'm telling you right now, not that I have a problem with showing it, that's fine. If that's what you want to do as an artist, creator. But I'm just saying, if you're trying to, this movie is the pinnacle for me of showing how fear and tension can be accomplished without gore and on-screen excessive violence. So
I agree.
Just wanted to throw that out there. It's, because that movie is as freaky and scary as it ever has been. And a lot of it you don't even see.
Yes.
You know what's happening, but you don't see it.
Yep, absolutely. So, and again, the atmosphere, it just makes everything just work. I mean, one of the other movies. Yeah, the music and the characters and the setting and one other horror movie that comes to mind that
Hmm.
does that a little a bit too is Texas Chainsaw Massacre. As much as
Yeah.
it's a classic and people they think it's all this stuff going on, but it has very little gore in it. But the
Yeah.
atmosphere and the setting and so forth,
Hmm.
it really puts your mind into a different place. And
Yes,
Halloween does that in spades.
it does. It's perhaps arguably maybe the well, I can't say the best because there's so many movies, but it's no
Yeah,
without a doubt it's top five. I think we can make that
yeah.
case easily.
Oh yeah.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
let's go ahead and move to kind of start wrapping up a little bit here. Let's talk
Okay.
about what is your most favorite overall aspect of the movie. If you just you had to say like one thing, what's your most favorite thing about the movie would be what?
I would say the atmosphere.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love and I haven't done it yet, but I will be doing, I do this like right around Halloween time. I do a watch where, I just get a nice snack and a
Yeah.
nice cold drink and I just give me that 97 minutes or whatever it is to
Mhm.
just like, whew, this is the only
That's
thing
it.
that exists. And
Yeah.
and and the thing that I love, well, one of the things I love the most about the movie is that I really do feel transported into this
Mhm.
world. And
Yep.
it's fun. I mean,
It is.
that's what I love about movies. My most favorite movies do that. They really take me into a different place. And
Yep.
this movie, it's just so good. Everything about it, it just takes me into that world and it makes everything that's happening feel very real.
Yes.
Even though I know it's not, and even though I've seen it, you know, countless amounts of times. But
Right.
every time I watch it, as soon as it starts, you see that pumpkin, you see
Hmm.
Mustafa Cod's name, and
Yeah.
he made a lot of money. And
Ooh, he did.
but it's a ride. It's a
It is.
ride and it's
Yes.
fun. And
Hmm.
like we've said, and I know we're beating a dead horse, but the sequels, they were missing
Yeah.
that type of thing. Some of them did get a little bit close to
Hmm.
atmosphere and the vibe and all that.
Yep.
But this movie, it was just so damn good, man. It really
Oh
was. So
yeah.
I love the atmosphere.
Absolutely. And I get what you're saying about the being transported and
Mm-hmm.
and it's very the movie is so engaging and it engages with you and you're
Yeah.
and you're interested, excuse me, you're interested in what's happening, what's going to happen. And like I say, even though you've seen it and I've seen it so many times, and I mean I watched it again just like yesterday,
Mm-hmm.
and it doesn't matter. It's like I still feel the same about it as I always
Yeah.
have. And
Yeah.
so I'm with you 100%. For me, I would say my most favorite aspect is that John Carpenter and Deborah Hill, they did not try too hard in making this movie. And what
Mm-hmm.
I mean by that is so many horror movies try to be the next big movie. They're trying to be the next franchise on purpose. They're trying to
Mm-hmm.
outdo somebody else, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they end up going outside of their depth or their budget.
Yes.
And it's just, it ends up working against the movie instead of helping it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll give you one example. Now, this is a little bit of a off the beaten path movie, but Night, you probably know this movie. It's called Happy Birthday to Me from
Yes.
1981.
Oh
Okay.
yes.
Now, this movie, I actually like the movie and I love the
Mm-hmm.
reveal. I'm going to say that. I'm not going to say any more about it, no spoilers, but I'm just going to say that I felt at times that movie was trying to outdo itself. It just was like
Mm.
making it bigger and bigger and bigger. And then the ending is like, what? And I liked it, but I thought that was a movie that was trying too hard. That's all I'm saying
Yes.
about that movie. I think that's my
Yeah.
opinion. Again, not a
Mm-hmm.
bad movie, just tried too hard. And Halloween never feels that way. They are
Right.
comfortable in their skin. All the actors, the script, everything, they are comfortable and they are
Mm-hmm.
who they are. And they don't try
Mm-hmm.
to push it. They do.
Right.
It's like John Carpenter's like, here's the mission. We're going to do this simple, but it's going to be
Mm-hmm.
majorly effective. And it was.
Yeah.
So I
I
would say
agree with that.
that's probably my favorite aspect.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, Night, I have to ask you, we're going to talk about our favorite. We'll wrap up with this here. What's your I would say if you could change one thing, if you could change one thing about the movie, what would you do differently, or what would you change?
And it's funny too, because when you had said that would be a question, I really had to think about that, because
Yeah.
I truly, me and my brother Killian, when we talk about movies, we say, well, no movie is truly perfect, but
Right.
yet there are some perfect
Mhm.
movies, and this is definitely one of those types of movies.
It is. Agreed.
But I will say, if I could change one thing,
Okay.
I would have loved to, and just because I loved him so much in this movie, I would have loved to see more Loomis. And it's kind of a catch-22, because I think by not seeing him a lot,
Yeah.
it made his mythos so much
Yes.
greater. You know what I'm saying?
It did.
But because I love Donald Pleasance's performance so much, and I love everything he said, I was just, I'm eating popcorn. I'm just eating it up.
Oh yeah.
Every single line he uttered in this movie was cinematic gold, as far as I'm concerned.
It was.
So, if there was a way to have even a few more minutes of that through the movie, I'd be in heaven, because I just think he was such a fantastic person to portray this role. So that would be what I would do.
Well, you're gonna laugh and you're gonna think I'm making this up, but I wrote this down like 2 days ago, and my part was I'm gonna tell you right now. And my note said I would have given Donald Pleasance more scenes and more lines in the movie. I swear, I wrote the same thing. I did.
We're the same. Yeah, that's great, man. I love it.
We are locked in, Night. We are locked in with each other. It's like every time he appears on screen, I want more. I'm like, let's go into another and make it longer, And I when you said that there, I was just like, oh, you got to be kidding me. We are right. This is exactly the same. So if we were directing the film, obviously we know what we would do. We would
that's right.
Give him some more scenes.
Yeah, man. He was just great. I mean, he was just, like I said, he was one of, he literally is one of my favorite characters in horror. He was just so good.
For sure.
When we talked about the movies, and we're almost through the franchise, but my brother likes to call him the greatest hype man in horror movie history. And it's a term of endearment, because when he talks about Michael, there's this energy in him, the way he describes it, and it just makes you believe so much more. It's like some people, when they talk, you listen.
That's right.
That's exactly what Donald Pleasance was. It's Dr. Samuel Loomis.
Yes, that's right. He commands the room, and you want to hear what he has to say, because he doesn't just throw around nonsensical stuff. When he speaks, there's a point and there's information you're going to learn.
Yes.
And so you really are drawn into him. And
you are.
Man, I'm like, I don't know if it was a situation where they didn't have the budget to pay him for more script lines, or if it was by intention. I don't know. But
yeah, I don't know either. I would think it was intentional.
Probably so, right? Because
if I was to guess, because like you said, this movie seemed like it was just, they didn't try too hard. They were just trying to make a good horror movie.
Right.
They had a small budget.
Yep.
Carpenter had the idea, the vision, and Deborah Hill filled in the gaps with the dialogue for the ladies and so forth. And they were so lucky to get Donald Pleasance in that role. I think they wanted to get Christopher Lee.
It was Christopher Lee. Christopher Lee is who they had offered it to. And you know what? You know why Donald Pleasance took the job? Do you know the story about that? You probably know it. Yeah. He said that. Look, he said, all I know is my daughter said that. What did he say? My daughter liked the movie
Assault
on Precinct 13, right? That was the one.
Yep.
And he said, so I took this job, and he said, John Carpenter said, he told me, I just don't get this script, so we need to meet and sit down and talk about it. And they did.
Yeah.
Like, oh, it was so cool.
And the other thing that was cool too is when he talked to Carpenter, he was kind of testing John, because he was like, I don't get this. And he wanted to see what John would do. And John Carpenter is one of my favorite directors of all time. So I'll just throw that out there. So of course I look at it through that lens, but John held strong and told him, hey, this is what we're doing. This is what we want to do. And Donald was impressed by that. And from that point on, he was on board.
Nice. Oh, I'm so glad
Great.
too, man. I
Yes.
can't picture anybody else in that role after seeing him. And it's like, I just can't.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, Knight, before we talk about your awesome channel, let's just give our final thoughts on Halloween 1978. What was your what's your bow that you'd wrap on top of the package?
You know, if you're a horror fan, you have to watch this movie. You know, I'm sure there are people out there that may not look at it in the same exact light that we do, and that's fine. But I think one thing that no one can deny is that there were some really great elements in this movie. So many, you know, and I think, you know, for people, especially the younger kids out there and so forth, I think that this is a good example of a good horror movie. You know, one of the best examples, I would say.
Yes.
Because everything works: character, direction, cinematography, the score, the killer, the motivations for the killer, and just the buildup, the tension and the buildup.
Oh,
so
it's masterful, man.
It really is. And you know, obviously we've gone all over the place with it, and everything is so true. But I would just say it's just a really damn good horror movie, one of the best, one of my favorite ever. And it has stood the test of time. 50 years,
50
you know,
years,
and
man.
I mean, and it's like, it's not going anywhere.
Nope,
it's not going anywhere.
Not at all.
That's why they call it the immortal classic, you know.
Hey, no denying it. This is nobody can deny it. Well, you like it or not, you can't deny that. It's just true.
Right.
It's just a fact. That's awesome, man. Well, I agree with everything you said on it, and I'm going to add just that I think it's the gold standard for slasher movie. I think it still is it set the standard that everyone was trying to reach that came after it. All the 80s slasher movies, that's because of Halloween. Those movies would not have happened, in my opinion, or at least the amount of them would not have happened had it not been for Halloween 78. I think Carpenter set the standard, and very few films ever reached it. And there are some, but one of them being Scream, which Wes Craven did, I thought met the standard. But we'll say that for another discussion. But I think it was the gold standard of horror for slasher movies, and to this day, it still remains. You know, it's like Muhammad Ali never is going to fade away. You know,
right.
This is like Ali. You know, you may have Tyson, you've got all these other, you know, Holyfield. You got a lot of great people that have come and have set their own mark.
Right.
But everyone remembers the greatest of all time, and this is up there in that category for sure. Agreed. So, man, this has been a lot of fun talking about Halloween night. This has been, man, I've enjoyed this time, and
me too.
I hope everyone watching has enjoyed it. And something else that you're all going to enjoy is the Night Watch Zone. You guys have got to look in the description below after this video. Don't go now. No, don't be too quick. But after this video is over, in all seriousness, you'll see a link in the description for Knight's channel for the Night Watch Zone. I have been enjoying Knight's content. He does some incredible things. I'm going to let him talk a little bit more about it in detail, but I can tell you that I have attended quite a few live streams that Knight has hosted on his channel, talking about horror movies. And I love that Knight and his team. I'll let you tell him about his team of Coriander and Killian. What I love is that they're giving dialogue and they're talking, but Knight is so interactive with the chat, and everyone who comments, he acknowledges it on screen. He acknowledges it at some point throughout the conversation. And some live streams, you guys, I know you've been on them before, where you will type messages and the host doesn't even acknowledge you're there. Right. And it's like, really? So it's kind of just like watching a video, which is when you watch a video like you're watching this, you know what you're watching. But when you go to a live stream, that's a different environment. You're expecting interaction. Well, I can tell you right now that one of the things I love is seeing Knight interact with everybody that participates. And I enjoy the conversation. If you guys enjoy this conversation, this is happening almost every day on his channel. on live stream. So that you guys got to go check it out for real. It is a true joy. I listen and watch weekly regularly. So Knight, I will turn it over to you for those who have never been there before. What can they expect from you and your crew?
Well, I mean, and thanks so much for that, Stephen, because I think that one of the things that we always wanted to do on the channel is to try to connect with people right then and there live, which, and truth be told, I'm not going to front, because it's difficult to do, because like you said, we're talking about a movie or having a discussion, and there's a lot of things going on at once, and we want to try to provide hopefully an entertaining and informative show. So sometimes we'll have images to reference what we're talking about, sometimes even little clips or whatever, and it's all happening as we're talking, and it's unscripted. It's unscripted.
That's right. Yes.
So I'll be quite honest with you, I'm actually very amazed and also very happy that it goes as well as it does. And the part of it that makes it even more fun is like when you and other people are in the chat and you guys are talking to us and also talking to each other. That's the other thing too.
True.
You guys, and I've seen it with so many other folks, some other YouTubers as well. You guys are connecting with each other and forming relationships and having fun. I mean, it's really all about fun. And for my co-host, my team, Coriander, and my brother Killian, I couldn't have asked for two people to more to do this with, because there's so much fun to do it with, and we just kind of like this discussion we're having. This could easily be an episode on my channel live.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because we just get very passionate and sometimes even emotional about the conversation about these movies, whether it's a classic or a new movie. And so that's what we do. We just try to have fun with the people that are very kind enough to watch us and even more so joining the live chat. And I definitely do try to connect with everyone. I'm not able to always connect with everyone, but I definitely like to at least acknowledge them by putting their message on screen and so forth. And it's just been a blast, man. We just celebrated a year anniversary, and it's been crazy. It's been fun and crazy. And we've met a lot of great people, yourself included. And it's been a great experience. It really, really has. We're so thankful and blessed.
That's so cool, Knight. Well, congratulations on the 1 year anniversary. That is so awesome, man.
Man.
Whoo, boy, I tell you, it's so much fun. It's a lot of work, because I know as a creator, I know what you're talking about, and non-creators don't get it, but us as creators, we understand. We can enjoy each other, but it is a lot of fun, man. It makes it worth it while, doesn't it? It really does.
It does. Yeah.
And guys, listen, you really need to go check out Knight's channel. Again, in the description, I'll have his channel link there. Please go and subscribe to his channel and like his videos and join these live streams whenever you're available to, because you're going to love them. And I may see you on the live streams as well. So I try to join as often as I can. I'll pop in, but definitely go subscribe to his channel. He's putting what they're doing is good work. It's fun, and they deserve your attention, guys. So please, after this video, go check out the NIGHTWATCH Zone. All right. Well, Knight, again, this has been a fantastic time, and I would be remiss if I didn't say one thing. Guys watching this video, if you like our video, if you've enjoyed this, hit that like button right now, man. Smash the like button on this video. That helps us to get the word out and the video to more people to find the video. And it tells us that you enjoyed the video. And leave us a comment. What do y'all think about Halloween? Tell us do you agree with our assessment and our thoughts, or do you have a different view of the original Halloween? Whatever's on your mind, leave a comment right now. Let us know so we can interact with you and chat with you about that. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, this is the perfect time. Hit that subscribe button and bell button so that you know when my next videos will drop. But thanks for that, guys. I appreciate y'all. Man, Knight, I have enjoyed this time. It has been a blast.
It has, man. I mean, I love talking about movies, and this was a great one that you chose. And I mean, it's been fun. And
Yes.
like I said, this I love doing this stuff. I really do, man. I really, really do.
Oh no, it shows, man. And there's nothing better than when you have a couple of people or multiple people for that matter that are passionate about the same thing and just
Yes.
really diving into it, and you learn a lot of perspective and you learn a lot of new things from each other. And so
Absolutely.
fantastic time. We got to do this again soon. We definitely
Yes.
do this again. This has been great.
Anytime, man. Anytime.
Fantastic. All right, guys. Well, one more time. This is Steven and my special guest, Night from the Night Watch Zone. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll catch you next time.